In the Queltequan galaxy, the United Galactic Federation convicts the evil scientist Dr. Jumba Jukiba of illegal genetic experimentation. They capture Jumba's creation, Experiment 626, an aggressive and near indestructible monstrosity with advanced learning capabilities. The Grand Councilwoman explains that Jumba was ordered to study biological threats and not create them. She passes out judgment to have his lab destroyed and 626 exiled. With the council decided, 626 is taken into custody and a collar strapped on his neck, but he escapes and hijacks a space cruiser, to which the Federation starts shooting at him. To escape his pursuers, 626 uses hyperspace to get some distance between them. They later discover that 626 is headed for planet Earth, which is mainly made of water. The Grand Councilwoman is relieved, claiming that water increases 626's molecular density, making him heavy and drop to the bottom. When they thought he would drown, they were surprised he crash-landed on an island instead. Jumba offers to help capture 626 in exchange for his freedom and labs. The Grand Councilwoman refuses and orders them to vaporize the planet instead when Agent Pleakley, the Council's Earth expert, stops them. He explains that Earth is a protected wildlife reserve for the mosquito population. That said, she decides to assign Jumba to recover 626 and orders Pleakley to accompany him and ensure that Jumba follows the Federation's rules. Meanwhile, on Kauai, Hawaii, teenager Nani Pelikai struggles to take care of her rambunctious and mischievous younger sister, Lilo, following their parents' death. Lilo goes through the island doing whatever she wants when she realizes she is running late for the hula performance. She explains she was late feeding a sandwich to a fish, which the other girls her age find her weird. Although Lilo tries to keep up with the others, she gets distracted by the empty seat reserved for Nani. One of the girls knocks Lilo over, but when she tries to get back up, she notices the weird looks people are giving her. In her frustration, she pushes the girl who knocked her off the stage. When Nani was late picking her up, Lilo walked home alone. Nani returns to the house but finds that Lilo has locked her out. When Mrs. Kekoa, the social worker, arrives, Nani opens the back door. Nani shows her inside and she finds the house in a mess. When Mrs. Kekoa talks to Lilo, she tells her the script they prepared. Mrs. Kekoa confronts Nani and explains the inspection didn't go well. She claims that she notices Nani is trying her best, but she reminds her that her job is to ensure Lilo is in a stable environment. Mrs. Kekoa decides to give her one more chance and tells her to finish 3 things before their new director arrives next week. Frustrated at how the inspection went, Nani takes out the trash in the back when their neighbor, Tutu, tries to comfort her. Tutu tries to convince Nani to consider going to college after being accepted and offered a scholarship, but Nani refuses to leave her sister. Tutu argues that the school is best known for its program in marine biology, but she still refuses, claiming that Lilo is her priority. That night, Lilo mistakes the spaceship crashing as a shooting star and wishes for a friend. Meanwhile, 626 crash lands in the forest and causes a commotion after crashing a wedding. Jumba was playing around with the controller to 626's tracking collar. Pleakley tries to stop him, worried they won't be able to track him anymore. 626 finds a transmission grid and uses power lines to take off his collar. When he wanders onto a street, a bus runs him over. The people thought he was already dead, so they called Animal Control, who took him to an animal shelter. Jumba and Pleakley finally arrive on Earth and hide their spaceship at the bottom of a lake. They try to blend in by covering themselves entirely in clothes. They then walk up to a resort looking for ideal people, to whom they can copy their appearance using a device. Once settled in at the hotel, they plan to search for 626. Jumba was planning to go out guns blazing, but Pleakley stopped and reminded him that they had to be discreet. At the shelter, 626 wakes up and finds himself in a cage. He quickly breaks out and escapes to the back when he sees a cake in the open. He runs up to eat it when he later realizes it is a trap. Jumba starts shooting at him with a tranquilizer gun, so 626 runs back inside. Lilo walks into the shelter, wanting to pet the animals. 626 thinks of getting Lilo to adopt him so he can use her as cover, realizing that Jumba and Pleakley wouldn't attack people. When Lilo meets 626, she quickly falls in love with him and begs Tutu to get her to adopt him. Despite her reservations, Tutu agrees, realizing how happy Lilo is, and later names him Stitch. When Jumba tries to shoot Stitch as he is getting into a van, Pleakley tries to stop him and gets shot instead. Pleakley falls unconscious, which forces Jumba to drag him back to the hotel. Federal agents arrive at the island to investigate the crash site. Federal agent Cobra Bubbles suspects this is extraterrestrial and reports his findings back to headquarters. They believe an alien creature is on the loose and trace it back to Lilo when they see a picture of her adopting Stitch on a website. When they run into them, Lilo shows off Stitch to Myrtle and her friends. They are unimpressed, so Stitch steals a miniature car and drives off into a cliff. Jumba suspects Stitch will head to the nearest city where he can deal maximum destruction, only to find out he is stranded on an island. Lilo decides to take Stitch to the beach, her favorite place, but Stitch refuses and stays on land where he is dry. She tried everything to get him into the water, but he wouldn't budge. Nani runs late and brings Lilo and Stitch to work at the luau. Despite Nani's instructions, Stitch wanders off, and the two get into much mischief. Stitch is so impressed by the fire dancer at night that he runs up on stage and tries it. When a guard tries to catch him, Stitch throws the torch on the table and starts a fire. Guests begin to panic while others try to put it out. Once everything settles down, Nani's boss blames her for the chaos and fires her. Once they got home, Lilo tried to bathe Stitch, but he made a fuss and ran to the kitchen. Nani tries to catch him, but Stitch is making a mess of everything. Nani asks Lilo to control Stitch and asks for her cooperation to make this family work. That night, Stitch carries on his destructive nature, but when he tries to destroy the family album, Lilo stops him and explains that it's her treasured item. Lilo and Stitch accompany Nani to find a new job the next day. Nani asks them to be on their best behavior, so Lilo tries to train Stitch to behave. Lilo gets him to work on his behavior by helping others, telling him to stop destroying stuff and making amends. Due to their repeated antics, Lilo and Stitch inadvertently ruin Nani's chances at landing the new job. Having failed at every job she applied for, Stitch brings them a flyer looking for surfing instructors. Being an exceptional surfer, Nani appears to have found the perfect job. When Stitch sees a man take his dog surfing, he wants to do it too. Lilo convinces Nani to take Stitch with them while they surf. Everything was going well until Jumba and Pleakley sneaked up from behind, riding a jet ski. Although Stitch is able to fend them off, Nani loses balance, and they fall into the water. Stitch slowly gets pulled underwater and inadvertently drags Lilo down with him. After regaining consciousness, they quickly take her to the hospital. Bubbles witnessed everything and called for reinforcement, worried they weren't the only ones after Stitch. Although nothing is wrong with Lilo, Mrs. Kekoa convinces Nani to surrender her sister's guardianship after realizing it would be in everyone's best interest. David tells Stitch that he believes Nani and Lilo will make it work until he arrives, blaming Stitch for everything bad that happened. That night, Nani tries to explain it to Lilo, but she chokes up and tries to collect herself. While the sisters bond, Stitch feels guilty for causing so much trouble that he runs away and returns to the shelter. At the hotel, the Grand Councilwoman informs Jumba and Pleakley that she was alerted that the humans are already aware of their presence. She is displeased at their continued failures and decides to intervene. She orders Pleakley to detain him, but Jumba goes rogue and shoots the teleportation device at him. Meanwhile, Lilo goes out searching for Stitch when he goes missing. She finds him at the shelter downhearted, guilty of breaking up Lilo's family. Lilo states that family isn't always perfect and that he is already part of the family. She embraces him when Jumba arrives and tries to capture Stitch. Stitch grabs his weapon down and escapes. Jumba grew tired of pretending to be human and turned off the disguise. He chases Lilo and Stitch back home, shooting at them with the plasma gun. Although they escaped outside, Lilo returned when Jumba blew up her parents' room. Jumba starts destroying the house, claiming that humans are attached to memories and that attachment is their weakness. Although they disarm Jumba, he makes Stitch guilty by telling Lilo that he only approached her at the animal shelter to protect himself. Stitch feels terrible and decides to turn himself to Jumba. Jumba takes a captive Stitch back to his ship, but when the house is about to collapse, Lilo follows them. Nani and the others searched for Lilo, but when they saw smoke, they quickly rushed back to find the house in ruins. Pleakley emerges from the rubble and informs them that Lilo got on Jumba's ship. Bubbles arrives and takes Pleakley into custody, claiming that he must report the threat to headquarters. Nani convinces him to help them find Lilo, the only one who can solve their problem. While Jumba is preoccupied with flying the ship, Lilo sneaks on board and tries to free Stitch. Once Stitch was free, they kicked Jumba off the ship, but the controls weren't working, and it crashed into the ocean. Although Stitch stays out of the water, he quickly jumps in when he sees Lilo pinned down by debris at the bottom of the sea. Stitch lifts the debris, and Lilo swims up for air. She tries to pull Stitch to the surface, but he has become heavy, slowly sinking to the bottom. Worried Lilo will drown with him, Stitch lets go of her hand when Nani and David arrive to pull her out of the water. Lilo begs Nani to save Stitch, claiming that he is family. Nani returned for Stitch but couldn't pull him to the surface because he was too heavy even for her. Left with no choice, she slowly walks on the ocean floor carrying Stitch until they reach the shore. Stitch isn't waking up, so they use the defibrillator to revive him. They keep shocking him, but Pleakley claims they need more power. Hearing that, Lilo grabs the jumper cables from the truck. Using the truck's engine, they attack the cable to Stitch and start the vehicle. It took a minute before Stitch finally regained consciousness. When they thought it was over, the Federation and the Grand Councilwoman arrived to take in Stitch. Stitch doesn't fight back and willingly follows, despite Lilo's objections. She also retrieves Jumba, who was floating in the ocean. After witnessing Stitch being well-mannered and polite, the councilwoman realizes that there is good in him. Although she wants to leave Stitch behind, she worries that this would cause panic, so Bubbles promises that they will keep it a secret, being a CIA agent working for the government. She also explained that the council will need someone to supervise Stitch, which Pleakley volunteers to keep behind. That said, she decrees that Stitch will be sentenced to life in exile, for which he will live out on Earth. Lilo and the others return to a destroyed house. After talking to Mrs. Kekoa, Tutu suggests Lilo live with them. Nani worries that it would be too much trouble. Still, Mrs. Kekoa has already agreed, claiming that transitioning to a foster family would be easier if they knew each other. Nani is relieved that she can visit her sister next door, but Lilo encourages her to pursue her studies in marine biology. Nani was moved and embraced Lilo, feeling loved and hopeful for the future. Thank you for watching. Check out these other videos, and subscribe and tap the bell to be notified about our latest videos. See you next time.